I still wouldn't fancy meeting Cat Nan on a dark night. He was a cat, 6 feet tall, and walked on his hind legs. And he carried a big sack on his back in which to kidnap irritating little brothers. And a further terrible fact about him was that if I mentioned him to anyone, especially my parents, he was sure to break into my bedroom that very night. Now, hopefully, we grow out of our childhood imaginary fears. But maybe there are real fears which still haunt you. But the Lord says, fear him and him alone. The saints all agree that that is who is meant in today's gospel, not Satan as some think, but the Lord our God. We are to be wary of Satan, as we are properly wary of our health or wary of crossing a busy road, but we are to fear the Lord our God and him alone. So what does it mean to say that we are to fear the Lord our God? In what way are we to fear him? Who is, yes, the eternal, all-powerful King of the universe, but the same God who loves us so much that he came to earth, lived a life with sorrows like our sorrows, and then he died a terrible death. The Lord our God did that because of his passionate love for me and you. So I say again, in what way are we to fear him? Well, luckily we have countless examples in the scriptures and in the lives of the saints of people being simply bowled over by the majesty and the otherness and the glory and the power of the Lord our God. For instance, those disciples at the Transfiguration, the disciples as the Lord walked on the water, Mary Magdalene at the resurrection, St. John in his revelation, a man who had loved the Lord for 3 years on this earth and then served him for 60 years as his apostle. But we're told that St. John fell down as if dead at his vision of God's glory. They were afraid. But none of those fears were anything like my childhood terror of a big, ugly, vicious cat. Those fears were fears of being unworthy of such majestic love. Fears of the stupidity of rejecting that love so freely offered, which must be equally freely accepted. So yes, let's be afraid, very afraid, of disappointing the Lord our God by saying no to him. We call that a holy fear. And here we are at this altar, at a jolly good practice session at gazing on the infinite majesty of the Lord our God for all eternity, and a place to learn proper fear of him. Because remember that heaven and the host of heaven descend to this altar when Mass is said and remain among us in the tabernacle. Those heavenly beings remain because the God of heaven remains in all his majesty and his love. The holy angels certainly fear God, but their proper fear does not diminish their joy at his presence one little bit. Since they're here, we should beg their help in imitating them with a holy joy and a holy fear. Remembering, as St. John Henry Newman wrote, the everlasting love of the eternal God, truly present in a tiny host, is a fire which must burn us before it transforms us and makes us ready for heaven.